What's Auburn going to be in 2024? Let's call our shot here on the record prediction for the Tigers, man. The over-under win total for them is at 7.5. Last year, make a bowl game. That's progress. Bowl game didn't go how you wanted it to. You have the black eye of the New Mexico State game. It is what it is. Enter into year 2, though, of the Hugh Freeze era. Auburn Tiger fans, we've had a lot of y'all subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel and join the party. We appreciate you so much for that, man. It is going to be an electric season on the Plains. Already, based on what they've done on the recruiting trail. It's an electric time at Auburn. Make sure you don't miss anything that we're doing on this show, because we talk a lot about your Tigers, talk a lot about Hugh Freeze. We got an interview actually with him living on this platform right now. So bottom line, make sure you're subscribed right here so you are dialed into the nth degree, all things college football, all things Auburn Tigers, and we appreciate you in advance for subscribing and being locked in. Hugh Freeze and this staff deserve a lot of credit for how quickly they flipped that roster. Like, it is very obvious for anyone that has watched Auburn Tiger football, from what they were previously to what they were last year, that coaching staff came in with a plan. They knew what they were walking into. Sometimes you see guys, staffs more specifically, just kind of go machete mode instead of surgery mode. And what I mean by that is, like, they're just taking anybody they can through the portal. They're chopping things up. They're just throwing stuff at the wall and trying to see what sticks. I don't think that was Auburn football last year. Did they have everything they needed? No. But give a lot of credit to that personnel staff, man, because the way that they got things in a row, in a hurry, a lot of credit to Will Redmond and that staff out there, because they did a phenomenal job personnel-wise, getting them in position to be competitive. And people want to dismiss Auburn because of what Payton Thorne didn't do last year. We'll talk about that more in a second. Did we not see flashes last year from Auburn? And I get the New Mexico State game as a negative data point. But we also, I think, would be irresponsible to not at least consider the other really positive data points. There's no moral victories. We talked to Payton Thorne about that as well. But, you played Georgia down to the very last drive. You had the ball with a chance to go and win the game against Georgia. That has to count for something in year 1, right? The Alabama game. 4th and 31 will live in infamy in Auburn, Alabama for a very long time. Can't say there's not some credit you got to give that roster for playing them that tight. I think you do. Those are two of the best teams in college football. One that made the playoff, one that I think was good enough to win the national championship if they had been healthy in Georgia. It is what it is. But people will dismiss Auburn. We say this a lot on this show because they think they know without a shadow of a doubt what Payton Thorne is going to be. That's their opinion. They think Payton Thorne, what you saw last year, is what you're going to get this upcoming season. I would flip that thought on its head and say, well, why don't you think Payton Thorne's going to progress? Why are you so certain that what we saw last year from Payton Thorne at Auburn, which again is very different than what we saw from him at Michigan State in a larger sample size, why do you think he's going to stay at the level he was at last year? I would argue that there are two things just in life, period, that equate to more success. One is experience. Payton Thorne now gets more experience. Played last season, took his lumps, got spring football, gets another fall camp, more experience. That should benefit you. The second thing, though, that equates to more success is more help. All of us with more help, we're just better at our jobs. You get more support on your team. You get a better manager. You get better this, you get better that. Any support you get around you in football, in your work, in life, whatever it is, you're going to be better. That's Payton Thorne. I know Cam Coleman's a freshman. He's a freak show. He's going to be a dog for you. Keandre Lambert-Smith played a lot of football. He's really good. He's going to be a dog for him. Rivaldo Fairweather, NFL tight end. You have more help if you're Payton Thorne. That's going to equate, I believe, to more success. Go back to those two games against Georgia. Say Payton Thorne, he's not going to be the guy to get Auburn to where they need to be. Are we sure we're asking Payton Thorne to be the guy to elevate Auburn? You got to ask him to do his job, but they had Alabama. They had that game won. It wasn't Payton Thorne out there on 4th and 31. And here's the thing. Payton Thorne threw for less than 100 yards in both those games. And they still played both those teams to a score. I'm not saying Payton Thorne has to light the world on fire, win the Heisman Trophy. If he just does his job within the structure and confines of this offense, Auburn's going to have a chance now. They are going to have a chance. So let's go game by game here, man. Alabama to start the year. Alabama A&M, relax. Alabama, those of y'all that were like, what is he talking about? That's a win. You got Cal, that's a win. Again, you're glad to have them at home. New Mexico will be a win. Arkansas, early in the year, one of those games, kind of a gotta have it for Hugh Freeze and company. That's a win. Now you have Oklahoma in Auburn. I'll tell you right now, this is a game that I believe that building has circled, that they are fired up for. This is their chance to make a statement, I believe, to all of college football in front of their home crowd. We're different this year. I know what you saw last year. This is a different organization this year. Statement win for Auburn in that game over Oklahoma. We're going to go ahead and call it right now. So they're undefeated now, going to Georgia. They played Georgia close last year at home. I've told you many times, I think Georgia is on a mission this year. I'm not looking for Auburn to win that football game. I think they lose this football game. However, I'm looking at how far away is Auburn a second year. Because you can catch fire, you can catch lightning in a bottle any given Saturday and play a team tight. New Mexico State's a great example of that if you're an Auburn fan. And like, New Mexico State has no business hanging with us. Auburn hung with Georgia last year. Once is nice. If you do it twice, though, that adds validity to what happened last year, to how close you did play them last year. So I'm not saying you got to go beat Georgia. I don't think they do beat Georgia this year, but how close they play them, I think, is a great litmus test, a great measuring stick for what Hugh Freeze is doing out there on the Plains. So I think you lose that game. Now, this is a game that I think is kind of flying under the radar. They go to Missouri. They go to Missouri off a bye. Missouri right now getting a lot of top 10 buzz, deservedly so. I think this is one of those games that Auburn gets in there with a game plan from another stratosphere, from Hugh Freeze, and they are dialed in. They go in there and they beat Missouri. And this is one of those games now. We talk a lot about marketable moments on the recruiting trail, moments that you can point to when you're trying to sell a 5-star or a 4-star and say, hey, this is where this is headed. This is the small sample size. This is kind of the appetizer. We need you here to make this a routine thing. Think they win that football game. Now, the week after, though, they go to Kentucky. Major letdown spot after an emotional win. Tough place to play. Stoops & Co. is going to be a gritty outfit. I think you actually lose that game. But you beat Vanderbilt. You beat ULM. Texas A&M, I think, is going to be a tricky game. I think you actually lose that one. One where you get towards the end of the season, and Mike Elko and company are going to be tough as well. Kind of a toss-up, but let's say you lose that game. You go to Alabama. I think that Jalen Milroe will be another specimen this year. I think he's going to be on another planet this year. I think you lose that game with it being in Tuscaloosa. But at the end of the day, man, I think 9-3 is extremely attainable right now in August. I'm going to put them at 8-4. But let's be very clear. 8-4 does the job for you this year if you're Hugh Freeze and company. 8-4 creates the momentum you need, the inertia you need to take on the recruiting trail, land, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood. It may not be exactly in the neighborhood of a top 5 class. And then the vision, the future going forward, forget on the recruiting trail. Internally, that is crystal clear. Crystal clear. Not just from the wins and losses perspective, but the way they play these teams. The way they play the Alabamas, the Georgias, 2 years in a row. The way they play Missouri, who's going to be a top 10 team. I think that is something that you point to and say, all right, going forward, this is who we are. This is what we're about. And there's no more dreaming it up. There's no more, oh, we're so close. It's like, okay, there's real proof of concept here. There is real footprints for where we want to go. Not enough of them, but there's some reason to believe we can accomplish what we want to accomplish, which is ultimately win conference titles and compete for college football playoff berth. So Auburn, we got them at 8-4. Could see 9-3. We'll say 8-4 right now with some excitement towards the future on the Plains. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.